Morning, everyone. Call the meeting to order. We do have a quorum. Take a motion to approve the agenda and minutes.
So moved.
I'll second that motion. All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion to carry. Rich Brown, good morning.
Morning, how are you guys? Am I there?
Gotcha.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure you can hear me. Guys are getting snow equipment put on. We're out blading where we can, doing some ditch cleaning. It's going to be a good week for us, temperature-wise. We are going to try to put some snow fence up where we have snow fence or snow drift problems, where the crops are ready and where we have permission to do it. So that's what's happening this week. One thing we're doing, we've been looking for a drop deck trailer here for a while. We found one on Purple Wave. So if it's possible, the bidding I think ends on it tomorrow. It's a trailer that's coming out of Dallas County, Iowa. It would suit our needs. We've been looking for one for a while. We got the budget for it. I think what I'm going to do is try to get a comfortable bid on it where we think it's worth the money. The only thing I'm going to need is if Jackie's available, I think that we need to have a check written within 2 days of the award. So I don't know, Jackie, is that something that can be done?
Can it be Wednesday, please?
What's that?
Can it be Wednesday or Thursday?
Well, whenever they've got to have it. If the bidding ends tomorrow, I don't know what time of the day it ends, but they'll let us know. They'll need a check within 48 hours of the bid. So I'll let you know for sure.
Good.
That sounds like Wednesday or Thursday to me. So
Yeah. It won't. Yeah, it wouldn't be tomorrow. So I mean.
That's good.
All right. That's all I have. Unless you guys have questions, I'll stick around if you guys got anything coming up.
Not that I can think of.
no.
Okay.
Question. Actually, I have a question. Ditch cleaning. Did you ever get a request or a work order for Lark Avenue, just south of Highway 9? Be the 2 mile blacktop going south of Highway 9, west of Manly.
Lark Avenue, south of 9.
Yeah, the one's full of cattails.
Oh,
I'll have to look. Russ or Al might have taken one. I don't know of one right now. Unless who would have,
that's a
you know who would have submitted one?
What's that?
Do you know who would have submitted it?
Yeah, well, I think the people,
Road there, culvert in the road at the intersection.
the people that want or were questioning it live just south there, that first place on the west side.
Let's see
Because they
here.
get water that backs clear up to their place. I just remember hearing about it last spring or whatever, and I was just curious if anything got,
Let me see
maybe even
here.
last fall, but it got wet and cold in a hurry.
Yeah, I think there's one here. Yeah, Highway 9 and Lark at the corner.
Yeah,
We had looks like we just got one put in here last week. I'll
And I
check
could-
with Russ.
okay. Cause I know, and I had talked to Mike Schulte about it because he farms the ground, and that was, like I said, it was last spring or last fall. I don't remember, but it was kind of a bad time to do it because leveling the spoil piles for him would have been a pain.
This one was requested by Nick Dvorak. Does that seem like
That's
the
for
same
the
area?
north. That's further
north.
north.
This is
They
north.
just bought,
Yeah, they
just
bought
bought
some land.
Benjagertis's
Yeah, he bought a farm north of there.
on the gravel.
That's
The one that should be
This would be
blacktop.
south. Yeah. Oh, now, yeah.
This one's on Lark, and it's at south. It's at the intersection of 9 and Lark. Is that?
I mapped it wrong. It should be about north from me.
Oh,
That would be
AJ, which one are you?
Benjagertis's.
I'm referencing south of 9.
How far south?
of that intersection, and then south to the first place on the west side.
Okay.
There's a culvert
I'll
that
look
goes
at-
underneath there. There's cattails in there, so I mean it's
Wet
it's wet and holding
anyway.
water, and I
All right.
believe
It's
it needs
always
to be
been
cleaned.
wet.
It's probably, there might be some issue going on the other side of the road too. I'm not 100% sure, but
We'll take a look at that area. Then. We'll look at that area.
Yeah.
Okay. Yep.
All I got.
I'm good.
Alright, any drainage? No.
Hmm.
Claims?
Special claim for, Iowa Law Enforcement Academy for $15.75.
Okay.
Motion to approve the claim?
Motion to approve the claim for the Law Enforcement Academy. I will second that motion. All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Carried. Any reports?
Nope,
Reports, payroll eligibility or salary?
nope.
Brian Lund, charge account request?
Since R80 is coming over here, he'd like to get gas. The way they do it is with just a charge. You just say your number or whatever, and so he won't be able to get it when they're not there, but during the working hours, he'll be able to get it.
Okay,
It's pretty
straightforward.
down and, yeah,
Okay.
there's nothing crazy to it, but I just wanna,
Just be able to charge gas there to
yeah.
gas or fuel or whatever it needs.
He
He
does.
can't get tobacco, beer, or lottery tickets, so.
He's good?
We're
Okay.
good,
Should we say fuel? So
So you just need a
just a
motion to approve the
Yeah.
charge account request for
And
Brian.
I kinda wonder, we probably have a couple other of
Others
those
possible.
already, and
Okay.
I'm doing this one the official way.
Okay, perfect.
All right, there is a motion to approve that charge account for R80 here in Northwood, and I will second that motion. All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? That motion will carry. Jackie,
Okay.
consider pay of county employees who may work an election day.
As crazy as this has been, I am hoping that I don't have anybody else cancel on me, but I've already, done a quick, I asked the treasurer's office if they could give up somebody tomorrow, and they've donated Cali. What I'm asking is, can they get regular pay during the regular hours, 8 to 4, election, and then election pay 6 o'clock till then and till they're done at 13:25 is what we're still doing election pay for this one, and it doesn't count against their vacation.
Okay. I would say yes.
I mean,
Thank you.
Motion to approve that, or we just good to,
Motion, please.
I'll make a motion to approve the consider for pay for county employees who work on election day.
all right, there's a motion, and I will second that motion. Any other discussion?
Do I get extra pet?
No, Joel.
No.
All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? All right, that motion will carry. And that's good, I guess, that we can, or you can
No,
get
we're
somebody
free.
to cover.
Pretty much, it's pretty easy.
You and me, we're free.
You get what you pay for.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Liquor license?
Mm-mm.
No.
Just,
Request to vacate the road.
That I just left there because I didn't
Yeah.
know if
Yep.
anything was
we'll
gonna.
get to that if we.
Oh, John Torbert's gonna be here. Isn't he?
Is he zooming in or is he coming? Did he say?
I guess I don't even
I only
remember.
see one person,
I think he was on his way.
2734 number, so I don't think that's.
9 o'clock maybe.
Yeah. Forgot about that one.
Yeah, let's see.
Should put it at
Thank you.
8:45.
Could have, yeah.
And then Joel, that agreement you say,
We'll just wait till,
Yeah, you want to go through that right now, or?
I guess we got
Yeah.
probably 15 minutes to kill for sure.
Okay.
So,
We talked about, we are hosting some counties that have Essex traffic, which is the radio traffic. We signed an agreement with Saragordo County through their 911 board. And then also now Clear Lake PD is also doing, we're hosting their traffic. So the request was that we would just have one agreement with the Saragordo Joint 911 board instead of both entities. So that's what we did. We just redrew the agreement. We are making null the agreement with Saragordo Sheriff's Office because this agreement will cover both entities. But both entities are PSAP, so they will both be paying us that yearly fee. And I do need that signed so I can get that back to them. So
so
we need that to.
sign by the chair.
Yeah.
If you would need a motion to.
Yes, please.
Motion.
Motion
Motion
to
for a signature.
settle the data logger membership 28 agreement with, is it with Saragordo County? With-
Saragordo County Joint
Joint.
911. Yeah.
Okay,
all right, there's a motion for the 2080 agreement with Saragordo County Joint 911 Service Board. I will second that motion. And I'll do a roll call vote. Maybe
aye.
Stone, aye. Motion will pass, and we'll sign that.
Thank you very much. And do you have the chat pulled up, Adrian?
Yeah, it's
Okay.
popped up there. Get this shit done. I just never thought. Okay, Winworth Betco, Melissa.
Hi, I am meeting with Iowa Workforce Development shortly, and we're going to go over the next steps for home base Iowa for the counties, and hopefully I'll have the details at our next board meeting. And then Avance had brought in some of their employees on Saturday. We put one family in Forest City. And unfortunately, there's a housing shortage in our area, so the majority of them will be living in Albert Lee and commuting down to Lake Mills. But if anybody has any housing rentals, feel free to give me a call. And I think that's about it.
They, considering being here long term, they probably should be looking at buying property. Some of it's pretty reasonable. Probably almost buy it
Right.
cheaper than rent.
Yeah, except for in order to purchase, you have to have a certain length of time in your employment. I know some of them over in Mitchell County have started the purchasing process, if not completed by now.
Good, good.
Fantastic, that's a good deal, so.
Okay. Yeah, there is no rental. I don't think there's anything like even in Joyce there, you know, there's sometimes some houses there that are, but there are none that I know of, right?
Yeah, and hopefully and I talked to Mark, and he has a couple properties, and once the library moves over, that house that is the temporary library could possibly be utilized for that, unless he already has a renter that's ready to move in.
Well, very possible. He's got people knocking at the doors, so. But,
Yep,
yeah.
including me.
Everywhere, so, yeah,
Okay, well, that's good.
yep. All right, well, sounds good, Melissa, thank you.
You bet.
Jason, good morning.
Morning. Last week I did send to Boyd Gaming, I believe, everything they need for their review prior to providing the deed for the property. I sent a couple comments. Those were addressed. Jeff addressed my questions, I guess, on the covenants, so that should be resolved. I believe the only item outstanding that I owe you yet is some street lighting design and some bids. I do have that pretty well ready to go. Our electrical engineer is back in this week, so I will get his review of it and get something submitted so we can get some bids from some contractors. Any questions?
No, I don't believe so. I know, sounds like we're getting more and more interest in that place already.
Yep.
Good. I do plan to go out there probably Wednesday. We're going to do a final inspection and put together a punch list so we can get that closed out.
Okay, awesome.
Sounds good,
It's looking good, that's for sure.
yeah. I thought there was something I was gonna ask you, but I don't recall. If I remember it, I'll call you later or something.
Yeah, you have something on your-
Yeah, I don't remember. But either way, yeah, if I remember it, I'll call you.
All right. Thanks.
Thanks, Jason. Planning and zoning, I got busy last week again. I forgot to call Matt over there at Mitchell, or Winnebago County, so I will get that done today. And hopefully have something for you next week and see if he's interested. Department heads. Everything going smooth, I'm assuming, for most department heads.
Sure.
You bet.
Couple more days to get over that hump, and then we'll jump right into budgets.
You could hit him.
Fine, well,
Excuse me.
So you'll be lucky to get to see budgets by the end of the year.
Yeah, that's just,
yeah,
Because between drainage and
next,
audit.
anything
And
for the
there's
future
all
agenda?
kinds of other stuff.
See, we got, urban revitalization for December 7th.
be about right.
Right.
Time frame.
Yeah, so, Christmas got his stuff done last week that he wanted.
Oh, we did have the new drone out
Oh, you did?
last week. Yeah, so the day after we got it, we were requested to fly with the Worth County Sheriff's Office for a manhunt. And probably about twice the flight time is what we had over the other one.
Really?
Good. And the new camera it's fantastic. So
Cool.
very, very happy with the new platform.
The other one got shipped out, didn't it?
Actually, they're flying up to.
Oh, they're still flying. Okay, I was getting my flu shot when Mark was weighing it up.
Clinton there?
Hmm?
Clinton?
From Clinton, yeah. They're gonna fly up and put it in a fixed wing, so.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, yep.
Interesting.
Well, they got a plane down there or something, or somebody they know?
I suppose it's, one of them's a pilot, I would imagine,
I was
so he
gonna
needs
say.
some flight time and.
Probably, instead of driving.
That's why they can't afford or they have to get a secondhand drone.
Yeah,
Because they got an
get their own real airplane, real drone.
But who knows, river, it's a river community, so who knows, maybe they do own a plane.
It's very possible.
And they maybe do the same thing we do. I mean, if they run a certain area down there or something, and a drone's a little more cheaper and efficient.
Very much so. And if you guys want to see some video sometime, we certainly can pull it up.
Said he's a former lieutenant from State Patrol.
Oh, yeah, so he probably.
Dan did.
What's that?
Chief, he was. Okay. Interesting.
Oh, the chief of police is.
Yep.
Okay.
No, that's good. Yeah, use it. That's what it's for, right?
Yeah. Good.
Canvas, fire chief, what about that stuff? Yeah, good. I was waiting on John now, right?
Yep.
Okay.
We could do down department
Supervisor Weekly.
Yeah, that's it.
That's what I'm looking for. Mark, did you do anything last week?
Oh, I had my weekly Iowa workforce development on Wednesday, and we just a lot of basic stuff. We're just kind of finalizing things. We did lose our board sports secretary, which we kind of probably knew, but Heather Garcia and her consulting group, or whatever you want to call it, will be taking over all responsibilities that'll just roll into under her 36 hours a week or 34 hours a week, whatever we're going to give her. And then I also sat in on a Zoom call on Friday with the local workforce development, which is her community business leaders and things like that. Just Heather asked us to sit in, some of us, we joined in, and they elected their chair and vice chair, and we're working on some of their procedures and policies. And so everything's really fallen into place really nicely. And, I think always our fear was maybe as a new 20 county group, we are getting along extremely well, and things are just going good. And I think for the, being a smaller county, it's going to work in well. It's nothing like,
Mental health.
mental health for us. So we're good that way. I was going to sit in on that Zoom call with this was in Mitchell County. I'm doing this trails and stuff, and I forgot to get in on that day. I did happen to watch a Zoom call. I was invited to one by the state of Iowa, I think through some of the wind and solar that's coming up, and there was several different people on there throughout Iowa. One was head of Vermeer Manufacturing, TPI, which is one that manufactures the turbine blades, and down there in Newton, Iowa. And there was a leader from the Iowa Utilities and somebody from Iowa State, and they did an hour-long Zoom call. And I actually signed in late, so I didn't get any questions, and I want to get a couple questions in, but there was a couple questions. Mainly it was just a talk session. They talked about what wind and solar has done for the state of Iowa, creating over 11,000 jobs in the state of Iowa. That's just in the industry of, I think, more to do with maintenance and things like that. That might include, some of the manufacturing that's being done. They were also talking about the need to increase our power grid going forward. That's things they'll be working on. you know, there's a lot of talk about the wind and solar and what they're gonna, how it's gonna fit into the, you know, like the government's got the 2040, you know, renewable, whatever. I think there's some stuff in the legislators they've done, whether, you know, what that means. But it was just, it was a good meeting. A lot of good facts came out of there. So I did just happen to hop on that because I wasn't doing anything else. So,
Sure.
But I did try to send off a message, and that would be something that, you know, even Worth County, the Water Trails program, if it's interesting, I'll see if I can hop on and just see a recorded session of that. It'd just kind of be interesting to see what they're talking about.
Right.
You know, 'cause we do have a river right here in the county too, and
Yeah.
people do use it, so.
Yeah, they do. I mean, it's,
And I don't think it's a money thing. I think it's just a matter of how they set it up, you know, with access points and things like that.
Right.
We probably have some of that already. I think there's some signs out there, but
yeah, I know, like,
I don't know if it'll be a statewide trail map type of deal for people that are interested or what. I really don't know. So it'd be interesting if she sends me a link and I can watch it, just see what it is.
you know, get on the Shell Rock, they get on that Highway 9.
Yeah.
People do there, and then be just in the Saragordo right there at Plymouth, Saragordo County's park there, Strand Park.
Yep.
And then they get on there and float it down. I don't know.
Yep.
And I've heard of people floating from Northwood here
Yep.
down that direction, so I've never, but.
That's all I did. That's what I had going on this week.
Okay. I sat in on a second judicial district governance board meeting. Just some discussion for evaluation for their director, I believe. I don't know, never met the person, so it's kind of a tricky one just to jump into, but I did participate on that, kind of listened in, so I don't know, my input will be very useful for her evaluation, so I'll let them know that. And then we had Northwest Iowa Care meeting, got in on that. There's been some discussion on there of actually changing the name because, and we've heard it here, you know, why would we join Northwest Iowa Care when, you know, why are we going further away from what we were doing when technically it's not? I mean, there's still like 3 or 4 counties before you hit that corner of Northwest Iowa.
Yeah.
But to me, Buffalo Center is Northwest Iowa. So, I mean, you just start thinking there's a lot of room over there. So that discussion was brought up, and I think they may change it just to let, you know, not scare people or have people be afraid of not being able to get services because they got to go to Northwest Iowa.
I think that's some of the editorial questions are not that
Yeah,
long.
and that's what I told them. I said, you know, no more than we joined this group, I said, there's an editorial in our paper discussing that because we're the furthest east of this group. And,
Yep.
and why would we have to go to that? You know, Northwest Iowa to get help, and it's the help's here that there's all the programs and stuff they're using everything local they can.
Yep.
So a lot of that hasn't changed. So they're just looking at changing the name so that when people see it, it's just going to be like Care Connections of
Like CSS.
Northern
Yeah,
Iowa or
yeah,
something
yeah.
like that. Just we'll still operate, you know, under Northwest Care, but they just might because they're going to start sending out do some advertising, sending out pamphlets, all that stuff, and flyers and everything.
You can go over there, John, if you'd like.
So
Sorry if
so
you
they may
get
just
past
change
all
that
the
just
mess.
to ease the people's minds that they're not going to the other side of the state for help. So.
I'm excited.
But so I didn't make it down there. I just zoomed that one. I'm gonna make the next meeting. I think it's not until December, but I will go to Amherstburg. The next one, pretty good group of people. I've worked with some of them before and some other stuff. So yeah, just district. I think that was it for last week. So okay, we'll back up just a little bit. John, how you doing today?
Good, how are you?
Good.
Good to see you, John.
Nice to see you. Glad you could come up and join
Yeah.
us. And
Good to be here.
what's going on with the
Take this off, I think.
IDDA? Anything good?
Well, you know, you don't know the answer to that till you see how things play out sometimes.
Yeah, you're a day too early.
I had a question about that. We'll let you go on.
First of all, I will talk a little bit about our annual meeting.
Okay.
You know, like everyone else, we're conflicted about what to do about our annual conference, and certainly a lot of events this year have canceled and gone virtual. Unfortunately, that's not an option for us. Well, let me back up. State law says that you can only have, state law governing nonprofits, which is what we are, says you can only have virtual meetings if your bylaws specifically permit it. And our bylaws are silent on it. So the virtual option is not something available to us. Second thing our bylaws say is that we have to have an annual meeting.
Right.
So if we accept the fact that we can't go virtual, we accept the fact that we have to have an annual meeting, the question then becomes, how do we do it? So I took that to the board, and the recommendation I made was that we have an annual meeting, but we only have a business meeting. We don't have the normal quote, quote, dog and pony show with exhibitors and presentations, a noon meal, conference giveaways, all those kinds of things that constitute a normal conference. So if you've been to the annual meeting in the past, you know that we have a business meeting at the very start, which normally lasts half hour to 45 minutes, and that's just what it says it is. We have a financial report on the fiscal year end report. We elect officers for next year. We approve the legislative program, and any other business that needs to come before the organization. So that is what we will do this year. We will just have the business meeting. I expect it'll be half hour to 45 minutes long. And that will be at the normal date, at the normal time, which is the first Friday in December in Fort Dodge.
Okay.
And certainly you all are welcome to attend that. I don't think that we're gonna.
Do you think you'll have a quorum?
Yes.
Yeah. And will you try to amend the bylaws then so you can go?
Well,
virtual?
not at this point, but again, state law comes into play. And state law says that a quorum is 1/3 of your eligible votes.
Right.
And the way IDDA bylaws are constructed, each county that's a member gets 1 vote per drainage district.
Ooh.
So if you, I don't know how many districts you have in Worth County.
We have a
but if-
lot more than other.
Yeah.
But if you have 200 districts, you get 200 votes at the annual meeting. And just looking at our board of directors, if we have everybody from our board present at our annual meeting and no one else, will have a quorum. So, and I expect we'll have a few other counties, so I don't really think the quorum is going to be a problem. The second thing the state law says is that once you have quorum, any matters that come before the organization at that point, simple majority vote. So I think we'll be okay on all fronts. And then, we'll look at the virtual meeting thing. That creates its own set of challenges. I've been to some larger virtual meetings, and while they technically work, you get much above 20 or 30 people, and it gets a little difficult to maneuver. Unless you've got somebody running the meeting who really knows what they're doing, and we would have to hire that out, because that's not going to be me.
Me either.
I have sort of a passing acquaintance with technology. I know enough to get by. But I wouldn't be
That's why
running the
he's-
Zoom meeting.
That's why we
That's
have
why
our
he's here.
team player.
So we will have an annual meeting, but it'll just be a business meeting. And again, you all are welcome to attend, but I don't expect that we'll see the crowds that we have in the past. Second thing I'll talk about is the legislature. And again, we've, like everything else, it seems this year, we were impacted by COVID. IDDA had a bill that we took into the legislative process, which was House File 2552. And that bill did 2 things. The first was dealing with publication requirements when you do a classification or a reclassification. And what state law says now is that You know, when you do that, you have to publish everything.
We spent a lot of money on that.
Yeah, and that's very expensive. And our drainage clerks came to us and said, you know, this is really an expense for people, you know, of course those costs are passed on.
Mhm.
And said, you know, this is really an expense that's unnecessary because the people are already receiving this information. So, you know, we don't want to take away people's ability to know what's going on when there's a classification or reclassification. By the same token, we don't want drainage district members paying for things, for information they can already get. So the first thing we did was revise the law on that so that as long as the information was available in the normal fashion, it's available in the auditor's office,
Online.
by request.
Mhm.
As long as those things were present, you could bypass the publication requirements. So that bill's in pretty good shape, and we got it passed the House. I think it voted 97-0, and we got it over to the Senate, and the bill was sitting on the Senate calendar the first week in March. Everything we heard was no problem. It'll be 2 minutes on the Senate floor or to the governor's office, and away we go. And then, of course, COVID hit, and everything ground to a halt. So the legislature went home. They didn't come back into session until mid-June. And at that point, when they came back into session, they were basically 2 weeks away from the start of the fiscal year, and they didn't have a budget yet. So the first thing they had to do, obviously, on their agenda was to get the state budget approved. And that took 80 to 90% of their time. Beyond that, there were some what I call policy bills. This was a policy bill because it didn't involve a state appropriation. There were some policy bills that they took up, but they were really few and far between. And we had hoped that they would take this bill up. We had some state senators who were supportive of what we were trying to do that went to leadership and asked that the bill be taken up. We went to leadership directly and asked that the bill be taken up, but it wasn't done. The only savings grace was that there's a lot of other groups that could say the same thing about other pieces of legislation. So, you know, I anticipate that we'll be back next year on that. The other thing that bill did, which sort of came up at the last minute, was it raises the threshold, the dollar threshold on when you need to hire an engineer for a drainage project. And currently, I think that's $50,000. This raises it to what's called the competitive bid threshold. And that competitive bid threshold is set by a state panel so it can move. Currently, it's $139,000, I believe. So significant raise in that threshold. Now, certainly, it's still up to you.
Right.
When you want to get an engineer's report. But our board was very specific that they wanted to see more flexibility in terms of when you have to bring an engineer into a drainage project. And again, it's a lot of times it's a cost issue. So that was another thing that we supported. And both those issues were in House File 2552. So certainly it'll be proposed on our legislative program that we'd be back with that bill next year. Unfortunately, this was the end of the session, so these bills don't carry over. It's an election year, you know, we start over whenever we start over, January normally. Nobody knows what's going to happen this year, but there'll be a new legislature when they come back into session and everything starts from scratch again. But I, certainly think that, with the leadership we have and the promises that we've had from leadership, that we'll be able to, given any kind of normalcy in the legislative process, we'll be able to get the bill through. Let me visit briefly about a grant that IDDA has become involved in, and we were approached by a group that's called the Iowa Ag Water Alliance, which was a group put together by the Iowa Soybean Association. And they were going to propose or ask for a grant from NRCS, which is called I think it's CSP, Conservation Security Program, or anyway, a grant from National Resource Conservation Service for what's called conservation drainage. And they asked IDDA to be a participant in this grant, and talked to the board about it, and the board agreed, and that grant is in the process of being finalized. Now, it has been awarded, but the paperwork has not been done yet. And basically what we're talking about when we talk about conservation drainage and what IDDA's role is that, you know, to give you an example right now, and I know you've got some experience up here in some of this, if you do a drainage improvement, what happens for the most part now is that what that improvement involves is you just put bigger versions of existing infrastructure in place. You put in bigger mains. Conservation drainage takes that one step further and says, you know, as long as we're redesigning the drainage project, is there a way to redesign it so that it's more environmentally friendly? And can we incorporate in this redesign conservation practices to make drainage a greener process? So can we incorporate a saturated buffer or some saturated buffers? Can we incorporate bioreactors? Can we incorporate strategically located wetlands, buffer strips, any number of edge of field practices? And if we do that in the redesign, the cost of doing that is generally going to be lower. The other thing under this grant is what we're anticipating is that the cost of those edge of field practices could potentially be paid for by the grant. So it's a win-win for everyone. And you know what drainage does now is it, one purpose, move water off the soil when you have too much water. What conservation drainage says, you know, instead of just draining that water is, you know, maybe we ought to store some of it, either into a separate ponding area or in the soil profile, because at some point, given Iowa climate and Iowa weather, we're going to need that water. You know, it's either too much or too little, it seems. So at some point, we're going to need that water. If we've got it stored in some way, shape, or form, we can use it. And of course, there are companies, AgriDrain is one that builds structures, underground structures that can control the water table of the land. So what IDDA's role in this is to make you all aware of this, so that if you have a, you know, a potential drainage improvement coming online, that's something you can think about. You all would need to authorize that as the trustees for that project. And secondly, we'll be visiting with drainage engineers because obviously they would have to design these kinds of practices into the project. And so basically it's just an education thing for us and an outreach thing for us, which is what we're doing. It is a 5-year grant. And it's just getting started. Like I said, the paperwork hasn't been finalized yet, but the grant has been awarded. So, you know, personally, I think that's what the future of drainage looks like. You know, I think you'll see drainage as a process that is much more versatile in terms of potential uses than it has been in the past with some of the things that we're talking about. And I frankly think that's the way it should be. So we were very pleased to be asked to be part of that grant process, and we'll keep talking about it as we move forward. So with that, I'd be happy to respond to any questions.
That was kind of a good segue at the end there. You know, if we see a legislative change at the federal level, how's that going to affect drainage, do you think? A big shift, I should say. I mean,
Yeah.
you know, are we going to go backwards like we were almost here
Well,
5-6 years
you
ago?
know, again, the big thing that we see at the federal level, which has impacted us in the past, is the Waters of the United States rule.
Yep.
And we had a rule come under the Obama administration, which did include drainage in a new definition of waters of the United States, and potentially put us under regulation from EPA and NRCS. Trump came into office, and one of the first things he did was to indicate that they would be backing out that rule. You know, unfortunately, that's a lengthy process. You just don't sign a piece of paper and the rule is done. They have to go through the rulemaking process again. So that took about 2.5 years. But we did go back to the old rule, and then they adopted some changes to that. So that could be a reset. I don't know. If you have a new administration comes in, you know, they go back and say, we're going to put that rule back in place. I don't know. And, you know, again, another 2.5, 3 years, and court challenges and all those other things that take place when you do that thing. So yeah, potentially there is some impact there, but it remains to be seen.
So my tile projects this fall are pretty safe, then I should be able to do it, no problem. Okay.
Not going to be anything that happens overnight, I guarantee you.
No, that's what I figured, but I'm just kind of curious what our thoughts
Yeah.
are. I mean, you know, we went through that lawsuit and all that here, now the Raccoon River and all that.
Yeah.
I don't know if that would accelerate under a new administration.
Well,
or not,
I don't think it affects the legal part of it. You know, we've got a newsletter coming out hopefully this week yet, and you know, of course, the Des Moines Water Works was the one that filed the lawsuit against the drainage districts, and that was kicked out of court, and you know, they lost. But now the Iowa Environmental Council has put out a publication called, you know, Modernizing Drainage Law in Iowa.
Right.
And I think you have a pretty good idea of what their idea of modernizing drainage law is. And it's basically kinds of things envisioned in the lawsuit. They want drainage district trustees to be tile police, for lack of a better term. You know, you're going to control. I'm sure that's something you all want to do.
Oh,
right?
yeah.
No,
I hate drainage.
You know, they want you all to
having to do it, you know.
have power over landowners and tell them, you know, when they can drain land, when they can't drain land, what kind of conservation practices they have to put in place, et cetera. And it's interesting because the executive director of the Environmental Council came to the Environmental Council from Waterworks. She was the executive director when this report got released. She has since left the Environmental Council and is now back working for Waterworks. So I think, you know, obviously the intent of the report is pretty clear. And, you know, again, it's paint drainage as the villain. And, you know, try to change laws so that, you know, instead of acting as trustees, you're also going to act as environmental police for the members of your drainage district. And, you know, if you want to change what's going on the land, and I'm not advocating that, but if that's truly what you want, I think there are a lot better ways to do that than kicking that responsibility over to drainage district trustees. There's other places where they can be housed that would make a lot more sense. So, you know, that's just a report. It's just a study.
well, I mean,
But it's something that, you know, like anything else, there's scrutiny.
Well, that's like all things we have to get better with, you know, like you said, adding these saturated buffer type of things, and
Right.
changing how we're doing a little business. Or it's something that's gonna probably be coming, and I think it's being adapted by a few people. It scares me.
Yeah.
I spent my whole life, my father spent his whole life, my grandfather spent his whole life changing this land to farm it. And you're right, the concept is get that water off as quick as you
Right.
can, especially in the springtime, so you can farm that property.
Yeah.
But I do like the idea, you know, there've been times this summer, it'd been nice to reverse it.
Sure.
And,
Yeah.
you know,
Keep some moisture.
I mean, it turned out we had probably the best year we ever had in my area.
Okay.
But we got just enough rain at just the right time, everything, you
No
know, we got the
duration
water
up
off in the
here
spring and everything just worked perfect, you know, and, you know, an inch or two more water that we could have maybe put back in there would have,
Yeah.
you know, blew us away. But,
Yeah.
you know, those are things that, you know, we got old and outdated tile systems.
Sure.
You know, if you are making that upgrade, would be the time to do it, and then work with the drainage trustees here in the county, because most every one of us in this county, you know, you can see our district map up there. We've got, I don't know, 70, 80 districts. I don't know what we have.
And
Or
laterals.
Laterals and
yeah,
things like
open
that.
ditches and,
You know, most of them are 75, 100, 150 years old. So, you know, we are doing things, and we're doing the reclassifications and things there right now. So it's been, you know, we appreciate hopefully maybe switching that so we can save a few bucks there for the.
Yeah, get us some.
We did half a
simple
dozen
projects.
districts or laterals and districts last year. And it was a good process, and it was needed, and we got more to do. So.
But we get into some of them simpler projects, we can save some money on the other side where just get some competitive bids and get it brought back to where it should be, so.
Yeah.
and you did do a different project, I mean, the DD 21 West Main.
Yep.
You're slowing the water down there, and hopefully that, because that was supposed to be new and
Right.
not
Yeah.
something nobody else has ever done before.
Yeah, that was the first of its kind too, so, yeah.
Sounds right.
And I was sorry to hear about Ken's passing.
Yeah.
He's a good guy.
Was Ken on the board?
No, he wasn't.
Okay, I couldn't remember if he was on there.
He was there though.
He was there all the
I
time.
know, he was there all the time.
So,
That dude drainage, he was there.
Yeah.
yeah, we lost a wealth of knowledge.
Yeah.
Right there for this area, so. But, well, that's all I had, I guess.
Okay, I'm just learning as I go at it.
Okay.
so.
Sounds great. Thank you all.
John, thanks for coming up, we appreciate it.
Thank you,
My
John.
pleasure.
Thanks for
And
the
maybe
input.
we'll see you in December here then.
Yeah.
Yeah, like I said, it makes it easier if just one of us can attend as far as, you know,
Yeah.
get the social distancing. and all
Yeah.
that.
Yep.
Make it work.
I say one person with all our districts is plenty of votes.
Imagine the power.
That's right, that's right. So,
All right, we'll see y'all.
All right,
Okay,
thanks,
thanks,
man.
John.
Thank you.
All right, I do believe that is it, correct?
Mhm.
It is.
Okay, I'll take a motion to adjourn.
So move.
I'll second that motion.
Thank you.
All in favor, aye.
Bye.
Meeting is adjourned. Thank you, everybody.
It's just really nice.